Hey, what are you doing? Instead of playing around, make some food, you good-for-nothing wife.
Up until now, my husband has been acting like the boss and making me do his bidding during the early stages of my pregnancy. He finally went so far as to hurl insults at me during my remote meeting and even threw a bucket of water at me. I turned around, soaking wet, and there stood my satisfied husband.
What's your problem? You should say that kind of thing after fulfilling your wife's duties, you know? Come on, hurry up with a meal.
I had reached my limit at this point. I couldn't stand having a husband who not only bossed me around, but also threw water at his pregnant wife. Before I could protest to my husband, I grinned and said this. Oh, well, my condolences to you. My name is Harper, a 32-year-old working wife. I am an only child, so my immediate family consisted only of my parents, who lovingly raised me by themselves. My extended family also cherished me, especially my maternal uncle, Joseph, who is single and treated me like his own daughter. My uncle held a high position as an executive at a major confectionery company, Candy Creations, and he often gave me the sweets they produced.
This is a candy that your uncle helped create when he was young.
As he said that with a smile, my respect for my uncle grew. Gradually, my dream became working for the same company as my uncle. I wanted to plan memorable sweets that would leave a lasting impression on people. During my time in college, I applied to Candy Creations as my top choice and successfully secured an offer. I had kept my family connection a secret, so it was by no means a case of nepotism. My uncle was also pleased with my decision to join the company. However, to avoid any trouble in the future, we had decided to keep our family connection in secret within the company. After joining the company, I worked diligently, but I became so engrossed in my work that I didn't have a boyfriend until my late 20s. Despite my uncle and parents' recommendations for matchmaking, I declined and decided to find a partner on my own. I registered with a marriage consultation agency and met several men. But I couldn't find anyone who truly clicked with me, and I was on the verge of giving up. It was at that time that I finally met Elijah, who would later become my husband. Elijah was a salaried employee at a major advertising company, Dynamic Ads. He had a great appearance, and my first impression of him was flawless. Initially, I only revealed that I worked for a confectionery manufacturer, keeping my connections to Candy Creations a secret. In that situation, Elijah said to me,
Do you work at a confectionery manufacturer? I absolutely love sweets, you know? I'm particularly fond of Candy Creations gummies. I always have them.
He then showed me a pack of gummies from his bag. Those gummies were the first product I had been involved in planning after joining the company. I genuinely felt delighted by Elijah's words. Actually, this is a snack I was involved in planning, so I'm happy you like it.
Oh, really? That's quite a coincidence.
And so this is how my relationship with Elijah began. Due to our mature ages, after 1 year of dating, I received a proposal from Elijah. I happily accepted it. After introducing each other to our parents, we decided to have a wedding with only close relatives and friends. Dressed in a wedding gown, I was at the peak of happiness. On the wedding day, my uncle had tears in his eyes as he blessed us. He came to us and expressed words of celebration, and I responded with a smile. However, after my uncle had left, Elijah whispered something to me.
Hey, is that uncle of yours perhaps a big shot from Candy Creations?
Huh? Why do you say that?
I've seen him at a competition before. We lost that time, though.
Is that so?
Harper, isn't it a bit fishy? If Candy Creations executive is a relative of yours, you could have told us. Could it be that he got hired through connections?
I quickly denied it. I've been keeping the fact that he's a relative a secret. Despite conveying this, Elijah smirked.
I see. But your uncle seemed quite fond of you, didn't he?
Yes, he had been kind to me since I was a child. Another participant approached us, so the conversation ended there. However, Elijah was strangely in a good mood afterward. I had a bad feeling at that moment. Later, Elijah and I moved to a rented apartment, starting a new life. But it was there that I faced a certain problem. By the way, I work in the planning department, so I often have to work overtime, and it's a demanding job. Elijah was aware that I was reasonably busy, so before we got married, we made an agreement to share household chores. However, Elijah didn't do any housework at all. When he came home, he would just laze around. Furthermore, he would rush me to prepare meals. Of course, he didn't even bother to clear the dishes after eating. At first, I tried to manage everything by myself, thinking that I had become his wife. However, after living like that for several months, the stress began to build up. One day, I decided to have a frank discussion with Elijah. "Hey, Elijah, could you help out with household chores a bit?" However, my husband responded with apparent reluctance.
What are you talking about? Once we're married, isn't housework the wife's job?
That's not the case at all. We both agreed to share it before we got married, right? We're both working after all.
Did we really make such an agreement? Anyway, I don't feel like doing housework. You should do the housework, properly, as your duty as a wife.
I was stunned by those words and couldn't say anything in response. Since then, Elijah became increasingly domineering.
Get this suit dry cleaned. We're running low on socks. Make sure to buy some by tomorrow.
He started bossing me around with commanding tones, and eventually,
a wife should obey her husband. You lack respect for me.
He even started finding fault with me. After a year of living like that after marriage, I was exhausted. Then, at that time, I had been feeling unwell for a while, so I went to the hospital where I found out I was pregnant. It was still in the early stages, but joy welled up in my heart. I immediately returned home to share the news with Elijah. "Elijah, it looks like I'm pregnant."
Oh, really? Well, that's good.
I felt somewhat let down by his rather indifferent response. For some reason, Elijah was in a good mood and even humming a tune. "Did something good happen? You seem unusually cheerful." When I asked this, Elijah's eyes lit up and he said, "Actually, we just secured a contract with Candy Creations, so now your company is a client." Huh?
This time, Candy Creations is going to release snacks for pregnant women. Our company is going to handle that PR entirely, and we've got plenty of budget. Lucky us. That was certainly a project being carried out by a different team from mine. I hurriedly explained. "I can't believe it, but did you say something to Uncle Elijah?" "Huh? I just greeted everyone in the presentation, that's all." "What? If you do that, people around you will find out." "It's not a big deal, right? We got the contract because of it. I used our relationship and the directors to our advantage, but it's all part of the job. With this, my evaluation at Dynamics Ads is secure." Saying that, Elijah whistled while loosening his tie. When I called my uncle and asked about it, he told me with a wry smile. "When people found out that Elijah was a relative of mine, they became very attentive. I told them that choosing the advertising agency should be unrelated to that." "Uncle, I'm sorry." "No, it's okay. Elijah's company will surely do good work. Harper, you don't need to worry." My uncle said that, but I was dissatisfied with my husband's behavior. "By the way, how have things been lately? Are you getting along well with Elijah?" My uncle asked me that, but I couldn't say he was acting like a dictator, so I just told him that I was pregnant. He was very happy and told me to take care of my health, then he hung up. I had planned to continue working, but my morning sickness was worse than I had imagined. I couldn't stay on my feet because of the nausea, and I was constantly going back and forth between the bedroom and the bathroom. It was impossible for me to go to the office in that condition, and with the advice from those around me, I decided to take a 1-month leave until my morning sickness improved. Candy Creations was a company that was understanding of employees' pregnancies and childbirth, so my request for leave was quickly approved. When I informed Elijah about my leave, he showed reluctance. When I informed him about my morning sickness, he also expressed disapproval. "Huh? I've never heard of taking a leave for morning sickness or something like that." "It can't be helped. My health is really bad right now." "Pregnancy and childbirth aren't illnesses, you know? Taking leave for just morning sickness? You're not being a responsible professional, are you?" "Even if you say that." In frustration, I bit my lip, and Elijah continued. "Well, whatever. Since you're staying at home, make sure to take care of all the housework perfectly, okay?" "Huh? That's why I can't even stand up because of the morning sickness. Can't you understand?" "Don't be so dependent. If you're not working, don't rely on me for everything. If you don't do the household chores, it won't end well for you." His words were so harsh that I felt dizzy.
As he had declared, Elijah demanded perfect housekeeping from me, even though I was struggling with morning sickness. For example, I would feel nauseous at the smell of pasta boiling, so I had resorted to using frozen pasta. However, Elijah quickly noticed it and harshly criticized me.
Hey, what is this? You're feeding me frozen pasta.
Elijah, you used to eat it without any complaints.
You're supposed to be a homemaker and you can't even make pasta? Are you really that useless?
He continued to criticize my household chores and make sarcastic comments, all the while refusing to help with them. I struggled to cope with morning sickness, but still tried to fulfill my husband's demands by doing the housework. Around 3 weeks into my leave, something unexpected happened. I received a sudden call from the company.
I am well aware that you are on leave, but I would like you to attend the remote meeting this coming Saturday.
I heard the details of that meeting and agreed without hesitation. On the Saturday morning in question, Elijah was still asleep, so I sat in front of the computer in the study and joined the remote meeting. I was feeling better that day, with my morning sickness under control. I participated in the remote meeting, offering my opinions and taking notes on the meeting content. Just as I was speaking, the study door behind me creaked open.
Hey, what are you doing? Instead of playing around, make some food, you good-for-nothing wife.
Then he splashed a bucket of water on me from behind. When I turned around, there was Elijah standing there with a satisfied expression.
What's your problem? You should say such things after fulfilling your wife's duties, you know? Come on, hurry up with a meal.
I had reached my limit at this point. Having a husband who not only bossed me around, but also threw water at his pregnant wife was unbearable. Before protesting to Elijah, I grinned and said, "Oh, well, condolences to you."
Huh? What the hell are you talking about?
Elijah furrowed his brow. I slid my chair and adjusted the computer screen of the remote meeting to make it visible to him.
Why?
Elijah's face gradually turned pale. On the screen were my husband's company's advertising team, along with the representatives from Candy Creations, including my uncle. There were looks of astonishment, disgust, and anger, especially on my uncle's face. I was in the middle of a remote meeting.
Huh? Why are you participating while on leave?
Well, you secured this project for advertising targeting pregnant women, right? I was asked to participate because they wanted to hear from a pregnant employee.
That can't be...
Then my uncle at the back of the screen addressed me.
Harper, are you okay? Since you were splashed with water, shouldn't you go to the hospital?
The remote meeting participants expressed concern for me, one after another. Uncle, I'm fine. Thank you, everyone. Upon my response, my uncle says sternly,
Now, everyone from Dynamic Ads, is he the sales representative from your company who handled this project? Yes, he is from our company.
As the manager of Dynamic Ads answered with a trembling voice, my uncle continued.
The Dynamic Ads developed this product with the intention of caring for pregnant women. But for the person responsible to behave so outrageously towards his pregnant wife, frankly, we've lost trust in your company. Wait, Executive Director!
Despite the manager of Dynamics Ads' frantic attempts to stop him, my uncle continued coldly.
Personally, I'm inclined to terminate the contract altogether. We will reconsider it internally and get back to you, so please wait for a while.
One by one, my uncle and the representatives from Candy Creations exited the remote meeting. The only ones left were the members of Dynamic Ads, where my husband worked.
Elijah, what have you done? We're about to lose a major contract. No, even before that, is such behavior even acceptable as a human being?
Chastised by the manager, my husband answered with a pale face.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. Do you always treat your wife like this? Huh? Is that the case? Well...
When Elijah choked on his words, the female advertising designer from Dynamic Ads, who was present, spoke up. He poured water on his pregnant wife and asked her to make dinner. That's truly unbelievable. Starting with her comment, the attendees from Dynamic Ads criticized him one by one, saying things like, "This is terrible," and "So Elijah was like this."
Wait, everyone. It's a misunderstanding.
As Elijah desperately shouted, the members of Dynamic Ads continued to leave the remote meeting one by one. Soon there was no one left on the conference screen. My husband knelt on the floor, bowing his head in despair. Just then, the intercom rang. When I answered it, my uncle was standing there.
I came because I was worried. Are you really okay physically?
I was still soaked, but I nodded in response to my uncle's words. Then my husband rushed out of the study and prostrated himself in front of my uncle.
Executive Director, I am truly sorry for the trouble I have caused you. Please just spare us the contract termination.
However, my uncle looked down at Elijah and said,
Isn't the person you should be apologizing to someone else? Oh.
Until that moment, Elijah had likely not considered me much. He turned pale, and when he looked at me, he desperately clung to me.
Harper, I'm truly sorry. Please, forgive me. Can you say something to the executive for me?
I forcefully pushed Elijah away. Don't play around. You've treated me poorly both before and during pregnancy. Marrying you was a mistake in itself. I've already decided to get a divorce.
What? Divorce? Harper, you can't be serious.
Saying that household chores are a wife's duty? That way of thinking is completely outdated. We're both working, so where's the logic in not sharing household responsibilities? Is your mind like an outdated, rusty computer that refuses to update?
Harper.
Be prepared, you worthless man, because I'm going to claim alimony and child support. When I spat out those words, Elijah burst into tears, his face covered in tears and snot. My uncle sighed and took me away from the scene. That's how I returned to the safety of my family home. Later, Elijah and I divorced. As a substitute for alimony, I received all of our shared savings. We settled things with a lump sum payment for child support. Afterward, Candy Creations terminated its contract with Dynamic Ads. Elijah was forced to take responsibility and was moved from the flowery sales department to a less cushy position. Elijah's wrongdoings were already widely known at Dynamic Ads. Unable to bear the hushed whispers and rumors, Elijah chose to resign voluntarily. It seems he ended up unemployed. Since he made a lump sum payment for child support and had no savings, he now lives in a rundown apartment and is desperately searching for a new job. Even hearing that, I have no sympathy whatsoever. I can only hope he reflects on his actions. As for me, I recently gave birth to an adorable little girl. Both my parents and my uncle are overjoyed, and my daughter is thriving with the love and care of those around her. I've returned to work, and I'm juggling between my job and raising my child every day. From now on, I want to look forward to my life with enthusiasm, enjoying my daughter's growth.
My friend was happy for our kids to be in the same school. We don't have kids, so I asked my husband about it, and his sins return.
Hey, it's you! It's been a long time. I turned around to see my friend from college. According to her, she had moved nearby last month. I was so excited to see her again. We had a casual conversation and I introduced her to my husband, who was shopping with me. Then my friend said happily, "What a surprise! Our kids go to the same school!" What? Kids? It's great that your husband helps out with parenting. I'm so jealous. We actually don't have any kids. What? There was an awkward silence. I had no idea what she was talking about. But other day, my friend told me something so unexpected, and this caused a big rift in our relationship. My name is Mary Miller. I am 33 years old. I have loved drawing since I was a child, and after graduating from college, I went to a design school. Though I got a job at a production company, I was unable to do the work I wanted to do. So I started receiving paid commissions for illustrations online. Then, one of my illustrations got a good response and the requests started pouring in. I began to receive requests for stickers for a messaging app, so I decided to quit the company and began working freelance. At the time, My family fiercely opposed my decision to quit the company, but I was able to follow through with my decision thanks to Shane. Shane was my boyfriend then and my husband now. I met him at work when I was an office worker, and we started dating. He knew that I wanted to become an illustrator, and he gave me some advice when I didn't know what to do. If you miss this chance now, it may never come again. And you're just going to give up like that? But my parents are against it. I mean, if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to force you to. But there are people out there who want to do something, but never get the chance, you know? People who don't get a chance? Yeah, but in your case, opportunities came to you by itself. I think it would be a waste to let it go. Shane's words woke me up. He is right when he says opportunities rarely come by itself. I would be a fool to miss it. Thus, over the objection of my parents, I quit my job and became a freelance illustrator. Despite my anxiousness, my message app sticker won the top spot in weekly sales. My DMs were flooded with paid commissions, and I quickly surpassed my salary as a company employee. Around then, Shane proposed to me and we got married. I became a married couple with the man I love, who supported me when I was struggling. We have been married for 4 years now. We don't have children yet, but we are living happily with each other. Many things have happened in the past 4 years. The characters that I drew have been made into merchandise and picture books. I even collaborated with a store to have the characters' design used on their product packaging. Each time, my husband's smile was even happier than mine. Mary, you're amazing! I went to the store today and saw your illustration on a package of chocolates. They launched today, so I have a bunch of samples here. Samples don't do it. You have to go to the store to buy these. Shane, you're so over the top. No, I'm not. My wife is a popular illustrator, you know. I have to make sure I get these things as your biggest fan. My husband carefully peeled off the package off the chocolates and stuck it on the wall. Tomorrow I'll go buy another kind, he says happily. When I see my husband happy like this, it makes me happy too. Of course, I started this job because I love to draw. Still, without Shane, I wouldn't have been able to do the work I love today. Because of his encouragement, because of his support, he is the reason why I can live my life happily now. I can't thank my husband enough. I want to repay him as much as I can. That's what I thought every day. I haven't had a whole day off recently due to my work, but I finally got everything settled that day. My husband also has the day off tomorrow, so I wanted to go somewhere together. So I immediately suggested that to my husband when he got home. Hey, Shane, do you have any plans for tomorrow? Tomorrow? Why? I thought maybe we could go out together. I work from home, so you always go out for me on your days off, right? Well, I figured you wouldn't get as much done if I was home. Even on his days off, my husband is very considerate of me and leaves the house. I don't care who's there, and I'd be more than happy to see him at home. I can't deny his consideration because he seems to be caring for me in his own way. It's been a long time since we've had a day off at the same time like this. I was eager to go out for a change, so I thanked him. Thank you for always being considerate. I'll pay for everything tomorrow, so why don't we go splurge? Oh, well, tomorrow is a bit... What? You're off work, right? Actually, I have to work on my day off. I'm having a hard time with my current project, so... You never used to have to work on your days off. You must be really busy. Yeah, you know, you make a lot of money, right? So, I thought I'd better not let you down. Shane, we don't usually talk about it, but there is a big difference in our incomes. Shane works for a small company, so his salary is about average. I, on the other hand, earn quite a bit of money from collaborations with various companies and regular sales of app stickers. Perhaps my husband is self-conscious about that. However, if I told him that he didn't have to worry about it because I earn the money, it would destroy his pride. If he wants to quit his job and become a house husband, that's fine. However, he is still working as hard as he can to keep up. If that's the case, it would be unreasonable for me to refuse that. I felt sad, but I tried to smile so that he wouldn't be bothered. Oh well, if you're busy with work, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. Let's go on a date some other time. I'm sorry, Mary. It's your day off, so you should go out somewhere to get your mind off of work. Yeah, I'll do that. It's okay to relax at home, but it's more refreshing to be outside. Yeah, perhaps watching a movie or shopping. Oh, that reminds me. Can you get me a new wallet that'll suit me? My wallet is starting to tear. I'll pay you later. Okay, I'll get you a very stylish one. So the next day, I went shopping by myself. I'm always busy, so I save up a lot of money. Sometimes I get a little scared because my savings are so much bigger than when I was an office worker. I'm completely useless at housework, so I leave all the bank accounts to my husband, and he takes care of all the household expenses. I use credit cards for purchases, so I only have the statements of what I have spent. The money is deducted from my account, so of course I don't bother my husband. On this particular day, I was looking for a wallet for my husband and found a perfect one. It was a bit pricey, but I was going to give it to him as a gift to thank him for always supporting me. Can I have this one, please? Can I get it wrapped as a gift as well? I'm just giving it to my husband. I just bought the purse he asked me to buy. Some may think that. But for me, even these small surprises are part of our communication as a couple. I hope he'll be happy. With this thought in mind, I went home. However, my husband didn't seem to come home, and after 10 p.m., I received a message that he would be working overnight. In the past, he used to call me when he was about to head home and had dinner with me. But recently, I feel like this is happening less and less. Is it just he works overtime and comes home late? Or is he just concerned about me? I felt an indescribable feeling. After that, we continued to miss each other, and the time we spent together decreased drastically. I couldn't even give him the wallet I had purchased for him. Then one day, my husband asked me if I wanted to go shopping with him out of the blue. Although I still had some work to do, I was happy that he asked me out, and I readily agreed. We went to a shopping mall a few blocks away and looked around the various stores. Hey Shane, let's get a new matching mugs. Oh, that's a good idea. We've been using our current one for quite a while. There's a lot of cute tableware too. I'm gonna go check out the glasses over there. Okay. We've been using our current dishes since we got married, and they're nicked in some places. While I was looking at the pretty tableware, a voice called out to me from behind. It's you, Mary. It's been a long time. I turned around to see my friend from college, Emily. Emily! Wow, it's been so long! How have you been? I'm doing great. How long has it been? I haven't seen you since we graduated from college, so it's been more than 10 years. You haven't changed at all. And you look as cute as ever, Emily. Oh, please. I'm exhausted every day. Well, what brings you here today? I heard that you got married and moved to the East Coast with your husband. My husband gets transferred a lot with work, so we actually moved here last month. Oh, I see. I was so excited to see my old friend again, especially because I didn't have any friends nearby that I could meet so easily. What are you doing here today? Are you here alone? Emily asked me, just in time to see my husband coming this way. I called my husband and introduced him to her. Emily, this is my husband Shane. I've told you about marriage, but we haven't had a wedding, so this is the first time you've seen my husband, isn't it? My husband smiled at Emily and introduced himself. Emily has a husband too, so we may be able to be family friends in the future. While I was imagining such a thing, she said happily, "What a surprise! Our kids are in the same school." What? Kids? The unexpected statement made me pause for a moment. We don't have a child, so we've never even been to a school. Without noticing my agitation, Emily continued with a smile. It's great that your husband helps out with parenting. I'm so jealous. Parenting? What do you mean by that? It's not every day that a father comes to pick their child up from school. I'm the one who always picks up my kids from school. Your husband is so nice. Wait a minute. We actually don't have any kids. What? There was an awkward silence. I had no idea what she was talking about. I looked at my husband, who had turned pale and was slumped over. I asked Emily why she thought we had a child. She was slightly confused, but started talking. I saw your husband at my kid's school the other day. You mean Shane? Are you sure? He was tall and good-looking, so he was getting a lot of attention from the other moms. He came to pick up a girl and left holding hands, so I thought, we don't have kids yet. You sure you're not mistaken? I'm sure of it. I'm sure I'm not lying. Then, it appears to be true. My husband, who had been listening to our conversation, was shaking next to me, breaking out in cold sweat. I told Emily I'd be in touch and walked back to the car with Shane. Can you explain to me what's going on? I asked him, but he wouldn't open his mouth. So I took his phone and started checking. My husband was yelling at me to stop the whole time, but it didn't matter anymore. I got around and checked the phone and found videos of a girl and messages with a woman who was most likely the woman he was cheating on me with. Are you saying that this girl is the child between the woman and you? No, that's just her kid. But the girl in the video on your phone called you Daddy, right? That's because I'm like a father to her. So does that mean the affair is true? And it's also true that Emily saw you at the school? I questioned him, and Shane nodded silently. At that moment, I felt more anger than sadness. I can't believe it. I can't believe that while I was working so hard, he was deepening his relationship with his affair partner and her child. I can never forgive him. I'll make sure he pays for this. I drove the car to the state office where I picked up the divorce papers and demanded my husband sign them. Here you go. Fill this out right here, right now. Wait a minute. I have no intention to divorce you. What? Don't be silly. Do you think you can stay married to me after doing this? You betrayed me without a care in the world. Forgive me, please. It was just a little bit of a whim. I've only got intimate with her a few times. Believe me. It doesn't matter. You were with her child as a father, weren't you? At that point, it's impossible. That's disgusting. I trusted you. I even bought you a new wallet as a gift, and you trampled all over my heart. Mary, please, don't throw me away. I don't want a divorce. My husband was still half crying and would not sign the divorce papers. I got impatient and took him with me to my in-laws' house. When we arrived, I revealed everything in front of my in-laws. They were furious and ordered my husband to sign the divorce papers on the spot. I know he has a weakness for my father-in-law. My father-in-law is a strict man, and he would never tolerate anything unethical. After getting his signature, I stormed into the house of the unethical woman with my husband leading the way. Luckily, her child was at school, so the woman was home alone. When I asked her about the situation, I found it very hard to believe. Apparently, my husband lied about being divorced and contacted her. She was a single mother who was having trouble making ends meet, so he withdrew money from my account and gave her a large sum of money every month to support her. He lied to her that he worked for a major company and gave her money that he falsely claimed was his salary. When I told her that all of this was a lie, she glared at my husband with a disdain and told him to never show his face again. She, too, was in a way a victim of my husband. Thus, my husband was easily dumped not only by me, but also by the woman with whom he was having an affair. We later filed for divorce and our marriage ended. I declared alimony for the affair as well as a total of $20,000 that he withdrew from my account without my permission. As for the affair partner, she did not know my husband's true identity, so I did not claim any compensation. On the contrary, she contacted me right away and said she wanted to return the money. Apparently, she had been saving the money Shane had given her every month without spending it. I gratefully accepted the money. Shane, now alone, paid my alimony in one lump sum and was in debt. He had no support from his parents, and after moving to a studio apartment, he was living a much poorer life than before. He lied, cheated on his wife, and spent his wife's money without permission. He deserved it. I, on the other hand, bought a new apartment and a new room to work in. I see my friend Emily regularly, and we talk about many things. If I had not met Emily that day, I would still be cheated on. She felt sorry for me, but I can only thank her. I am going to enjoy my life from now on to make it even better.
On our anniversary, my husband claimed he had work, so I dined with Mom, only to find him dining with another woman. I exposed it all.
When I met her, I really thought this was fate.
I went to a high-end restaurant with my mother. What I heard there was unmistakably my husband's voice. He was having a meal with a well-dressed family of strangers.
Father-in-law, mother-in-law, please, give me your daughter.
The husband stood up and bowed. I, who had been watching from a little distance, understood everything. Oh, I see. That's how it is. Well, I have something in mind too. I walked confidently towards their table and declared, "Yes, I'll offer my husband as well."
Huh?
The family's eyes widened. As I saw my husband's face turn pale, I couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips. My name is Charlotte, a 30-year-old working wife. I originally worked as an office worker in a small to medium-sized company. As my marriageable age approached and I still didn't have a boyfriend, I decided to try attending a matchmaking party. It was there that I met Benjamin, who would later become my husband. He was a salaried worker at a large corporation. I was quite impressed by his first impression. Later, Benjamin confessed his feelings to me and we began dating. After a few dates, I started to notice something that bothered me. For example, when the two of us went out to eat, and the bill was $57.
It's fine here, I'll pay.
Benjamin stopped me from taking out my wallet when I tried to. Thinking he would treat me to the meal, I thanked him at the time. But after we parted ways, I received a message from him on WhatsApp.
The meal today cost $30, right? You can give it to me next time we meet.
I was, surprised. It would have been better if he had told me that at the time. And now that I think about it, I ended up paying more than half of the bill, even though Benjamin ordered more food and drinks. But then again, I felt awkward complaining about such things. I had been paying for more than half of our date expenses every time. I did have those kind of complaints, but Benjamin was very kind to me. Aside from being frugal with money, he was an ideal partner for me. After a year of dating, Benjamin proposed to me, and I happily accepted. Later on, we had a wedding ceremony. My father and mother were also overjoyed and gave us their blessings. As their only daughter, who had been cherished and raised with love, seeing them happy was more important to me than anything else. After discussing it with Benjamin, I decided to continue working even after marriage. Surprisingly, Benjamin had initially wanted me to quit my job.
I don't want people to think I'm a useless man who can't even support his wife.
So are you saying I should become a full-time homemaker? Should we rely solely on your income for our household?
Well, maybe after we've been married for a while. I could always switch to a job with a higher salary.
So you don't want to spend money, but you want to keep up appearances. I sighed and told Benjamin. I've been working at my current job for a long time. Even if I switch jobs, there's no guarantee that I'll get a higher salary than what I'm earning now. Can't we just let me continue working at my current company without trying to show off unnecessarily? Benjamin didn't seem entirely satisfied, but I pushed through and decided to keep working. And so our newlywed life began, but one day Benjamin said the following.
Even after marriage, we can keep our finances separate, and we can split the living expenses, right? Let's each contribute $1,400 to the household budget every month.
Huh? I was a bit surprised. Benjamin worked for a top-tier company while I was in a small to medium-sized enterprise. His income was likely significantly higher than mine. If I put $1,400 into the household, I wouldn't have much left for myself. Splitting the expenses evenly is tough. I'd liked it to be reduced a bit. I appealed to Benjamin in that way, but he didn't lend an ear.
Are you planning to rely on me entirely?
I don't think of it that way, but this just feels really unfair.
It's not like that. I want to save money too, so make sure to contribute the $1,400.
In the end, I ended up complying with that condition. Even though our finances were split evenly, Benjamin often claimed to be too busy and hardly did any housework. For over a year after our marriage, I had been doing all the household chores by myself. I had complaints, but there were also a strange belief that as a wife it was my duty to do them. I continued to bear the burden of all the household chores while contributing most of my income to the family. Then one day, I received a call from my mother informing me that my father had been in a car accident. I rushed to the hospital, but by the time I arrived, it was too late. My father had already passed away. Both my mother and I were in tears, and our emotions couldn't keep up with the sudden loss. Despite our overwhelming grief, we proceeded with the funeral arrangements. Somehow we managed to get through the farewell ceremony, and then we were back home. My mother and I were utterly exhausted. Benjamin made me a cup of tea.
Oh, thank you for your consideration, Benjamin.
Benjamin responded with a polite smile, saying,
No, it's only natural.
After finishing my tea, I called out to my husband. Benjamin, it's time to go.
Huh? Already?
Benjamin appeared, surprised for some reason. Why are you surprised? It's late and I'm tired.
No, I mean, you haven't had an important conversation with your mother yet, right?
An important conversation?
Aren't we going to talk about your father's inheritance?
Both my mother and I were surprised by this. The funeral had just ended, and we hadn't even considered such matters. Besides, it wasn't something Benjamin should bring up.
Your father had a good job, and if it's an accident, there should be a lot of insurance money, right? Charlotte, how much will you get?
Benjamin said this with gleaming eyes, and I felt dizzy. I noticed my mother's puzzled expression and panicked. We can discuss that another time. Let's just go home for now. I left my family home with a dissatisfied Benjamin in tow. On the way back, I scolded him for his impoliteness, but he didn't seem to agree.
Come on, Charlotte. We're married, so it's natural to be concerned, right?
My mother hasn't even recovered yet, and you're rushing things. Besides, my father's inheritance doesn't concern you, does it?
What? Are you planning to keep the inheritance all to yourself?
Suddenly, Benjamin glared at me, and I sighed deeply. Keeping it all to myself. The inheritance is separate property in the first place. What I receive, I'll save for our future.
What's that supposed to mean? I was thinking of going on a big trip.
Huh? Why would you use my father's inheritance for luxury?
You're so annoying. I didn't think you were this stingy.
I thought to myself, wondering who was the stingy one, as I held my head. Afterward, I had a discussion about the inheritance with my mother. My father's inheritance was a substantial amount, but following my mother's advice, I decided to graciously accept it. Ultimately, I put it in an account under my own name and didn't include it in our household finances. It seemed that Benjamin was dissatisfied with this and persistently tried to find out the exact amount, but I brushed it off casually. Benjamin started coming home late around the time my father's memorial service settled down. He claimed his work had become busier and would often work overtime on weekdays. Even on precious weekends, he would either have to work or simply go out. However, because I was also busy with my job, I didn't pay much attention to it. I still took care of all the household chores, but by now I had become accustomed to it. Around the time when Benjamin and I were approaching our 2-year anniversary since getting married, I spoke to him when he came home late. "Benjamin, thank you for your hard work. I have a little request."
What is it? What do you want?
Undaunted by Benjamin's apparent reluctance, I continued. "Isn't next Saturday our wedding anniversary? I want us to go out together after such a long time."
Is that what this is about? Forget it. I have work that day too.
Benjamin replied, almost dismissively. "Why are you saying that? Benjamin, you've been acting strange lately. You come home late and it feels like you've become cold towards me." With tears in my eyes, I looked down, and he sent me a cold gaze.
You're so annoying. I'm starting to hate being with you.
Huh?
I don't earn much and you're keeping the inheritance all to yourself. The food is terrible and it feels like there's no point in being married anymore.
What? Benjamin, what are you saying?
I'm seriously considering divorce. If you don't like that, then you should reflect on yourself as a wife.
Benjamin spat out these words and went to the bedroom. The word divorce, presented suddenly, made my heart race like a runaway train. Why did Benjamin suddenly mention divorce? Something is not right. At that moment, I was shocked, but also began to feel suspicious of my husband's behavior. After that, Benjamin stopped talking to me entirely. While enduring such a life, I received a message from my mother.
Charlotte, are you doing well?
Ah. Recalling Benjamin's recent behavior, I couldn't give my mother a positive response. Then, as if she had sensed it, my mother said,
It seems like something's bothering you. How about we have a meal together, just the two of us, like old times?
Yes, I'd love that. I'm free on Saturday.
Oh, isn't that the day of your anniversary?
Yes, it is, but Benjamin seems to be working, so it's fine. In response to my answer, my mother waited for a moment before saying,
I understand. Well, I'll make a reservation at a nice place then. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Mom. I was grateful for my mother's consideration. And then came Saturday. I had arranged to meet my mother in the city during the day. As I followed her instructions, we ended up at a famous high-end restaurant. Mom, is it okay to go to such an expensive place?
Sometimes it's fine, Charlotte. You seem a bit down, so I decided to splurge.
My mother smiled at me, and I returned the smile. That's right. Today, let's forget about Benjamin and enjoy a meal with my mother. As I was about to take my seat, I froze at the sight in front of me. Sitting diagonally across from me, with his back turned to me, was a man in a suit. He looked exactly like Benjamin. At that table, there was a young man and woman, as well as an older, well-dressed couple facing each other and sitting down. As I couldn't take my eyes off them, I overheard their conversation.
We never thought Scarlett would bring such a wonderful man with her.
Yes, Benjamin seems like a really great guy. I was shocked by the older couple's words. Did they just say Benjamin? Then Benjamin spoke up politely and said something unexpected.
I met her, and I seriously thought that this was fate.
The voice was unmistakably Benjamin's.
Please, father, mother, grant me your daughter.
Benjamin stood up and bowed, and at that moment, I realized everything. Ah, I see. So that's what it was. In that case, I have my own plans. I confidently walked up to their table and said, "Yes, I'll give you my husband."
Huh?
The eyes of that family widened significantly. Without a doubt, my husband Benjamin was there. Seeing his pale face, I smirked at the corner of my lips. Next to Benjamin sat a petite and cute young woman named Scarlett. She seemed surprised as well. So the elderly couple must undoubtedly be Scarlett's parents. Then Scarlett's father cleared his throat and said,
Who might you be? I don't quite understand what you're saying.
I calmly responded, "My name is Charlotte. I am Benjamin's wife." There was a moment of silence at the table. Benjamin still looked pale and hadn't said a word. That's when Scarlett grabbed Benjamin's arm and shook him. "Wife? What does this mean? Hey, Benjamin, what's going on?" Then Benjamin had a startled expression on his face.
This is not... What's going on, Benjamin?
Under the stern gaze of Scarlett's father, Benjamin finally said this.
This woman is my stalker. She's a crazy person who became infatuated with me and delusionally thinks she's my wife. Please, don't be deceived, everyone.
At this point, the way people around me looked at me changed drastically. Just as I was about to angrily speak up, a quiet voice resonated.
Who's calling someone's daughter a crazy stalker?
Unbeknownst to me, my mother had appeared next to me.
Mom?
Benjamin inadvertently blurted out. "Benjamin, what do you mean by mom? Isn't this person the stalker?" When Scarlett confronted him, Benjamin stammered. Then my mother calmly stated,
Nice to meet you. I am this girl's mother and I am Benjamin's mother-in-law. It is a fact that my daughter and Benjamin are married.
"What? Really?" My mother extended her phone screen to show Scarlett's shocked mother. On the screen were photos from our wedding.
The two of them got married 2 years ago and they haven't separated.
"What?" Scarlett and her parents were fixated on my mother's phone screen, and Benjamin finally began to tremble. "What is this? You were married to her?" Scarlett grabbed Benjamin's collar and started shaking him.
No, I was planning to break up with her soon. It's true. Please, believe me. So, does this mean that she is your wife without a doubt?
Scarlett's father inquired in a low voice.
Well, yes, that's right.
Finally, Benjamin admitted the truth, and Scarlett and her parents were left in shock. I followed up with, "You can marry or do whatever you want, but before that, divorce me. Be prepared to pay a hefty alimony."
Charlotte, it's just...
Next, I turned to Scarlett's family and said, "Scarlett didn't seem to know that he was married, so I won't ask for alimony. If you want to marry him, please go ahead." "This is no joke." Scarlett yelled this out, then stood up and threw a generous amount of water on Benjamin's head. "You traitor! You fooled both me and your wife, didn't you? You're such scum. Get lost." Scarlett grabbed Benjamin by the collar and shouted. Then she lowered her head to me and left the restaurant. Scarlett's parents also shook their heads and got up.
Benjamin, I'm disappointed in you. I'll have to cancel our business dealings. Mr. President, please, wait a moment.
Benjamin tried to stop them for a moment, but they shrugged him off and continued following Scarlett. Left alone at the table, Benjamin remained soaking wet and dumbfounded. I then snapped at him. "I bet you chose Scarlett with money just like this penny pincher. People like you should go to hell, you scumbag." Then, leaving Benjamin behind like an empty shell, my mother and I also left the restaurant. Later on, the divorce between Benjamin and me was finalized. I received $20,000 in alimony. In terms of property division, we settled on a 70% share for me and 30% for Benjamin. Benjamin's affair partner, Scarlett, turned out to be the daughter of a business partner. Scarlett and her parents were furious, and Benjamin was also asked for alimony by Scarlett. Benjamin depleted his savings, paying alimony to both me and Scarlett. Moreover, Scarlett's father terminated the business dealings with Benjamin's company, resulting in his dismissal. Unemployed, Benjamin currently lives in a rundown apartment. It seems he is desperately searching for a new job. However, this story has spread as a rumor, making it difficult for him to find employment in the same industry with a similar high salary. He probably won't be able to secure a job with the same high pay as before. On the other hand, I left the house where I lived with Benjamin and returned to my parents' home. To commemorate the divorce's finalization, my mother and I are discussing having a luxurious lunch that we couldn't have at that time. From now on, I want to work hard at my job and create a positive outlook on my life.
When my husband was about to inherit $3 million, he demanded a divorce. After I willingly agreed, he was thrown into a fiery pit of hell.
Hey, let's get a divorce, my husband said shortly after my father-in-law, who used to be the CEO of his company, passed away after years of caregiving. Divorce? He couldn't hide his happiness. Yeah, divorce. Now that my dad's gone, you're pretty much useless. Useless? So I was just a caregiver to you, huh? You got that right. Otherwise, who would want to be with an old lady like you? Fine, I understand. Let's get a divorce. He handed me a copy of the divorce petition with a smug smile, and I sat there silently, staring at it. Please give me some time to respond. He raised his eyebrows, but nodded in agreement. Are you in such a good mood because of your father's inheritance? Oh, you were thinking about it too, huh? Of course. I'm inheriting $3 million and taking over as a CEO. You are just in my way if I want to enjoy my life. I clenched my fist in anger at that moment. After over 30 years together, he had the nerve to mistreat me as he pleased. I no longer had any love left for him, and immediately left the house. He would soon be battered by the consequences of his actions. I'm Penny Macmillan, a 55-year-old housewife. My husband is Calvin Macmillan, 2 years my senior. We met when we were young, introduced by a mutual friend. He was working at his father's company. My father-in-law, William, was a strict but kind self-made millionaire who built his company from scratch. When I first met him before the wedding, he said to me with a warm smile, "Don't be so nervous. From now on, you're a part of our family." My easygoing mother-in-law was also delighted with our marriage. "I'm so happy for my son to have found such a wonderful girl. I'm excited to have you as my daughter-in-law." I was grateful to have such wonderful in-laws. We have a daughter named Madeline. She was an adorable and bright child who often told me how much she loved me. The 5 of us lived together, leading a happy life. Time passed, and Calvin and I found ourselves in our 50s. Madeline had married a wonderful man and started her own family. A few years ago, my mother-in-law passed away due to illness, and she couldn't make it to Madeline's wedding. They were very close, and she had loved her dearly. Before she passed away, she held my hand and said, "My dear, please take care of William from now on. Nancy, because of all the kindness you've shown me, I can go in peace. Thank you." Then she peacefully took her last breath. She had been a loving person until the end. After she was gone and Madeline moved out, it was just the 3 of us living together. My in-laws had been a loving couple, so William seemed down for a while after her passing. I tried to do my best to cheer him up and take him out of the house. On the other hand, Calvin was completely hands-off during that time. He threw everything in regard to household to me and didn't even help his own father in any way. He had never been involved in Madeline's upbringing either. He was either out for work, drinking with his colleagues, or playing golf. I believe my in-laws were also disappointed in him. Given our long marriage, I understood his tendency to avoid responsibilities, so I didn't have high expectations. After Madeline moved out, I was thinking of finding some hobbies for myself. Then William collapsed at his workplace, suffering a severe stroke. He was in critical condition, but thankfully he survived. However, he was left paralyzed almost completely bedridden. Calvin, honey, what are we going to do now? I asked him on the way back from visiting William at the hospital.
What do you mean? Obviously, you will be taking care of him at home.
What? But I don't have any knowledge about caregiving, and I don't feel confident.
Then learn it quickly. You're going to take good care of him.
I could only nod in response. I resolved to do it with all my heart, especially because William had always treated me well. And so, began my unfamiliar caregiving routine. I tried to do everything I could, but tasks like bathing were challenging. When I turned to Calvin for help, he said,
How would I know? Don't rely on me. Figure it out yourself.
Frustrated, I turned to Madeline for advice. She introduced me to an acquaintance who worked as a care manager, and I managed to get some assistance from Madeline. William could only communicate by typing on a tablet, and always conveyed his gratitude to me. I felt that I could endure the unfamiliar caregiving as long as it was for his sake. While I worked tirelessly, Calvin seemed to be out having fun. He was always absent, claimed to work overtime on weekdays and working on weekends, never showing his face to William. Unable to bear this situation any longer, I spoke to him frankly. Honey, can't you help with taking care of your dad?
Geez, why should I?
He furrowed his brows. Because you guys are family. You're his only son, you know. How about holding his hand and talking to him once in a while? He laughed it off.
What's the point? It's useless.
Useless?
Yeah, he can't even move or talk freely, which means he's worthless. You don't have to put so much effort into caregiving. It's not like we want him to live longer.
Do you even know what you're saying?
Of course I do. I'm tired, so don't bother me anymore.
He stormed off to the bedroom in such a rough manner. I could smell a strange scent of perfume on him. After that, he became even colder toward me. One day, I had prepared dinner for him, but when he returned home and saw it, he dismissed it with a glance.
What's with this disgusting-looking food?
I made your favorite.
Your food is tasteless. I'm not gonna eat it.
Then, he grabbed the plate and dumped its contents into the trash. What on earth?
Don't prepare dinner for me anymore. I'm tired of looking at your unpleasant face.
I watched his back in shock as he walked away. Since William collapsed, not only had he not helped with caregiving, but his attitude had been getting worse. I started having some doubts. On another day, he complained that I didn't clean the house properly, even though I did as usual. He nitpicked and criticized me for a single hair on the floor. I held back tears and endured his sarcasm. Eventually, the bell rang from William's room. Wiping away my tears, I went to his room, where he communicated with me through writing.
I'm so sorry for the way he's treating you.
As I tried to reassure him, he took his time to communicate something to me. I was stunned by the contents, but agreed to help him. Within a few months, he had a relapse of his brain hemorrhage and quietly passed away. I rushed to the hospital with Madeline, and we cried together. Even at that moment, Calvin didn't show up. After William's funeral, he called me to the living room. When I came in, he was lounging on the couch with a smirk on his face. What do you want to talk about? Without saying a word, he showed me a copy of divorce petition with a grin.
Penny, let's get a divorce.
Divorce? He replied with an expression that couldn't hide his happiness.
Yeah, now that my dad's gone, you're pretty much useless.
Useless? So I was just a caregiver to you?
You got that right. Who'd want to be with an old lady like you?
Fine, I understand. Let's get a divorce.
You are pretty agreeable. That's a relief.
He handed me the copy with a smug smile, and I sat there silently, staring at it. Please give me some time to respond. He raised his eyebrows, but nodded in agreement. Are you in such a good mood? Because of your father's inheritance?
Oh, you were thinking about it too, huh? Damn right. A few months ago, I checked his bank account and saw $3 million in there. On top of that, I'm taking over as a CEO. You're just in my way if I want to enjoy my life.
I clenched my fist in anger at that moment. After over 30 years together, he had the nerve to mistreat me as he pleased. I no longer had any love left for him. I wanted to let my anger loose and speak out, but I held myself back and remained calm. Well, good for you. As for the property division, I will contact you through a lawyer.
What property division? I'm not giving you anything.
I have the right to receive half of the $20,000 in our shared savings. We can fight it out with lawyers if you want, but you won't stand a chance.
You got some unnecessary wisdom, you know. Whatever. I have $3 million in the company. I will give you that much, considering you're a miserable woman with no career or future.
He spat out and made a dismissive gesture with his hand. I got up and packed my belongings, and then left the house where I had lived for over 30 years. When I explained the situation to Madeline, she was enraged. She even invited me to stay with her, but I declined. Instead, I rented a one-bedroom apartment on my own. Calvin sent me a check for $100,000 as part of the property division. For the next 2 weeks, I lived peacefully on my own. One day, while having coffee with Madeline, my phone rang. The caller was Calvin. Hello, what is it?
You! Where the heck are you? You better come over right now. We need to talk.
He shouted so loudly that I thought it might break the phone. When I signaled to Madeline, she nodded. Okay, I will come over with Madeline now. And so, we headed to the house we used to live in. When we got there, he was standing with his arms crossed in the living room. What's the matter, calling me over out of the blue? You said I was useless and didn't need me anymore. I calmly told him, to which he shouted back.
What do you think you're doing? Demanding alimony from me?
He thrust some documents at me, which had been sent by my lawyer. It's all written right there. I'm just claiming alimony for your infidelity. In fact, I had hired someone to investigate him a little before William passed away. The result was damning. There were plenty of photos of him entering hotels with women younger than Madeline.
I never cheated on you.
I already have the evidence. Besides, I've heard you've been telling people that you'll ditch the old wife and replace me with a young and cute one. You apparently boasted how lucky you were, right? He choked, his face turning bright red as he struggled with his words. I maintained a smile and continued. An alimony of $30,000 for your infidelity should be raised for someone like you, who receives $3 million in the company. Pay it up without complaint. Then you go ahead and have a good time with your young bride after that.
Well,
as his face grew paler, Madeline couldn't hold back her laughter any longer.
Madeline, how dare you laugh at your father?
Oh, please, I don't consider you my father anymore. But seriously, tell us about the inheritance. You did get $3 million, right? He mumbled something unintelligible. Huh? I can't hear you. My question caused him to turn beet red.
It was gone. For some reason, there was hardly any money left.
He yelled desperately. I had to hold back my laughter. Of course it was gone.
Huh?
He looked puzzled, and I continued. Before William passed away, He decided to give both me and Madeline some, and the remaining money was donated.
What the heck?
At the time when I was in tears from being criticized by Calvin, he informed me about this matter.
Penny, I've long given up on Calvin. Leaving him an inheritance would only lead to trouble. But I want to ensure that you and Madeline are taken care of. Please accept it as a gift from me.
Already knowing about Calvin's infidelity by that time, I graciously accepted the offer. Madeline did the same, and I received $1 million, while she got $50,000. After completing all the procedures, he donated the remaining to various charities. I assisted with that as well, but Calvin knew nothing about it.
Charities? And you guys receive a fortune.
Calvin was white as a ghost. Yes, we accept it as a gesture of your father's kindness. It will ensure we don't face financial difficulties in the future. Madeline chimed in. After all, Mom supported the household until the end and took care of Grandpa's caregiving. It's only natural, right? He started trembling nervously. What's wrong? It's nothing even if you didn't receive $3 million. You inherited the company, didn't you?
I didn't.
Oh my.
It had already been transferred to one of the shareholders. Not only that, I got fired. They said something about my attitude toward work.
I had to suppress a laugh. Oh, right. I heard that from the employees. You were strutting around, boasting that you were the next CEO, but you hardly did any work and just harassed your colleagues. Such a person is naturally let go under the new management. You really are terrible. I despise you. He began to tear up and pitifully confessed in a trembling voice.
My girlfriend left me as soon as she found out I had no money.
Madeline casually remarked. Well, it seems there's nothing appealing about you except money. If you don't have that, you're just useless.
Jeez, you're so cold to your own father.
He started pleading with me as the tears rolled down on his face.
Penny, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. Forget about alimony and please come back to me. Madeline, you too. Let's start over as a family of 3.
I coldly replied to such a proposition. Not in a million years. You and I are done. Facing the despondent Calvin, I told him, you're no longer of any use to us. Just pay the alimony and never show your face in front of us again.
But,
without paying him any more attention, we briskly walked away. I soon received the alimony from him. According to information from someone close to him, he had almost entirely squandered the remaining $100,000 from the property division on his affair, and had even accumulated debt. Chased by debt collectors, he finally managed to sell off the only property he had inherited, our former family home, to gather enough money. Left with an empty bank account, he lost his family, his home, and his job all at once. Now, he is barely getting by in a rundown apartment, making ends meet with daily labor jobs. Even after hearing his plight, I feel no sympathy for him. Madeline also has no intention of getting involved anymore. As for me, I am leading a comfortable life. Recently, I received the joyous news of Madeline's pregnancy. She and her husband proposed building a new house to live together, and I decided to chip into the project. Currently, the construction is underway. I look forward to cherishing my grandchild and living happily ever after with them.